Chapter 6. Soldiers Attack. 30. English soldiers in the forest. 31. Officer Prescott in a Ahigala camp. In 1820, tension simmered between the Ahigala tribe and the English colonists who had recently arrived. The colonists, eager for land and resources, pressured the Ahigala to relocate to designated reservations. However, the chieftain of the tribe refused to abandon their ancestral home. This defiance had consequences. Years ago, when Ahigala was still a young boy, English soldiers had attacked their village for refusing a peace treaty. Ahigala, along with a pack of wolves, had become a legend for his bravery in defending his people. Now, a lieutenant, who had been a young sergeant during that attack, led a new group of soldiers towards Ahigala territory. Unaware of the Ahigala's history with wolves, the soldiers marched through the dense forest, oblivious to the watchful eyes hidden amongst the trees. The dense forest floor swallowed the crunch of boots as the English soldiers marched deeper into Ahigala territory. Lieutenant William Prescott, a young sergeant during the attack on the Lakota village years ago, gripped his sword, his eyes scanning the shadows nervously. He dismissed the tales of Ahigala and his wolves as savage superstition, but the unsettling silence of the forest gnawed at his resolve. News of the English advance had reached the Ahigala tribe. A pony, a young wife of Ahigala with eyes as sharp as flint, knelt beside young man Ahigala, the legendary wolf boy. His weathered face remained stoic, but a flicker of anger danced in his eyes. A pony knew Ahigala wouldn't abandon their land without a fight. The forest, his domain, would be his weapon. It was the summer of 1988. As the afternoon sun dipped low, piercing screams shattered the oppressive silence. Panic erupted as 4 soldiers and their steeds were dragged down by unseen assailants. The remaining red-coated and hat-wearing soldiers, fearing a tangible presence in the air, scrambled to form a defensive circle. Lieutenant Prescott barked orders, his voice strained. Nightfall descended, cloaking the forest in an inky blackness. The red-coated and red-hatted English soldiers huddled together, jittery and on edge. A low growl, followed by an ear-splitting wolf howl, ripped through the stillness. Then came the pandemonium. Hundreds of howls echoed through the trees, seeming to come from all directions. Soldiers, on the brink of hysteria, opened fire into the darkness, their panic shots cutting down friends alongside unseen enemies. In the aftermath, the survivors huddled around a meager fire, fear etched on their faces. The forest had claimed half their number. Lieutenant Prescott, in red coat and hat, wounded by a wolf's savage bite, nursed a growing sense of dread. This wasn't just any attack. It was a message, a chilling reminder of the legend of Ahigala and his wolves. The remaining red-coated and red-hated soldiers, a ragged group of 20, emerged from the forest, forever marked by the horrors they'd witnessed. News of their encounter with the ghost wolves spread like wildfire across the settlements, reaching the ears of both the Ahigala tribe and the English colonists. Within the Ahigala camp, a fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the faces gathered around it. The young native Indian man, Ahigala, his weathered face etched with concern, addressed the tribe. "The colonists have learned a lesson," he rumbled, his voice deep and gravelly. "But their greed will not be satiated easily. We must prepare for a full-blown attack or move to the promised land in the north." A pony, her braid adorned with a single raven feather, stepped forward. "We have the forest on our side," she declared, her voice ringing with defiance. "These English are no match for our knowledge of the land and the creatures that inhabit it." Her words were met with murmurs of agreement from the assembled warriors. Ahigala nodded, a glint of steel in his eyes. "We will fight," he vowed, "but we will also be cunning. We will use the forest to our advantage, striking from the shadows like the wolves themselves." Meanwhile, at the English garrison, a tense atmosphere hung heavy in the air. Governor Worthington, a portly man with a receding hairline, slammed his fist on the table. "We cannot afford to lose this land. Damn these savage wolves," he bellowed. Lieutenant Prescott, red-coated with his face pale and drawn from his wounds, spoke with a quiet urgency. "The wolves are not mere animals, sir. They seem to be guided. We are facing a foe unlike any we've encountered before." Governor Worthington, a portly man with receding hair, scoffed. "Nonsense. We have more men and superior weaponry. We will crush these Indians and their beasts once and for all." Despite the governor's bravado, a seed of doubt had been planted. The native Indian Ahigala tribe, with their mysterious connection to the wolves, had proven themselves a formidable enemy. As tensions escalated, both sides prepared for a clash that would determine the fate of a land. With only 16 soldiers remaining, a pall of fear hung heavy over their camp. The forest, once a source of curiosity, now loomed as a menacing entity. Lieutenant William Prescott, with red coat, his face etched with worry, surveyed his battered company. The memory of the chilling wolf howls and the screams of his comrades still sent shivers down his spine. Despite the dwindling numbers, Governor Worthington, portly man with receding hair, back at the garrison, remained resolute. "We press on," he declared, his voice booming. "We cannot let these savages and their beasts intimidate us." But Prescott, with his red coat, haunted by the events in the forest, disagreed. He argued for a more cautious approach, fortifying the existing settlements and seeking reinforcements. However, his pleas fell on deaf ears. The governor, fueled by pride and a thirst for resources, wouldn't be swayed. Left with no choice, Prescott led the remaining redcoat soldiers back toward the Ahigala tribe territory. The journey was fraught with tension, every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sent the red-coated soldiers scrambling for their weapons. The once confident march had devolved into a desperate scramble for survival. Meanwhile, within the Ahigala camp, the news of the devastating wolf attacks had reached tribe. A pony, her eyes gleaming with a fierce pride, relayed the details. "The forest has spoken," she declared. Ahiga, the young man warrior, his weathered face grim, nodded. "They have learned a harsh lesson, but their greed will not be easily sated. We must be prepared." The Ahigala warriors, emboldened by wolves' success, sharpened their weapons and honed their hunting skills. They knew the forest better than any outsider, and they were ready to defend their land, with Ahiga and his wolves as their silent guardians. Lieutenant Prescott, with red coat, his face haggard and drawn, dismounted his horse. Fear, a persistent companion since the first wolf attack, tightened its icy grip around his heart. Where were the Ahigala? Had they fled in terror, or was this a cunning trap? He cautiously led a small scouting party of red-coated soldiers forward. The village seemed undisturbed, yet eerily empty. Tools lay abandoned, children's toys scattered on the ground. It was as if the Ahigala had vanished into thin air. Suddenly, a low growl erupted from the nearby woods. Prescott's heart hammered in his chest. A dark shape darted from the trees, a flash of teeth and claws. It was a lone wolf, its eyes glinting with an intelligence that sent shivers down the red-coated soldiers' spines. This wasn't a mere animal. It was a predator, a reminder of the unseen forces lurking in the shadows. The red-coated soldiers retreated to the main group, their fear palpable. Panic threatened to consume them. They were lost, outnumbered, and in hostile territory. "They're gone, sir," reported the lead scout, his voice trembling. "But they left us a message." He pointed towards a single object hanging from a low branch in the center of the village, a weathered wolf pelt. Its vacant eyes seemed to stare accusingly at the intruders. Prescott, with a red coat, understood the message. It was a warning, a chilling reminder of the Ahigala tribe connection to the forest and the creatures that inhabited it. Their defiance wouldn't be easily broken. A heated debate erupted amongst the red-coated soldiers. Some advocated for a hasty retreat, others for a defiant stand. Prescott, his gaze fixed on the wolf pelt, knew they couldn't stay. They were already defeated, not by an army, but by the relentless forest and its silent guardians. With heavy hearts and leaden limbs, the remaining red-coated soldiers turned their backs on the empty Ahigla tribe village and began the long trek back to the garrison. They had come seeking land, but they were leaving with a terrifying lesson. Sometimes the land fights back.